Most people assume gadget prices are driven by cutting-edge technology, that every dollar you spend goes toward innovation, research, and better performance. But when you strip these products down to their components, silicon, plastic, glass, and assembly, a very different picture appears. Today, we're ranking 8 popular gadgets by markup percentage. Not by how expensive they are, but by how much profit is built into the price. And once you see where the money really goes, it just might change the way you see things. Number 8. Smart TVs. For most of their history, televisions were simple value propositions. You paid for size. You paid for picture quality. And once the TV was in your living room, the transaction was over. A television used to be a one-time purchase, a physical object that delivered a single function. The manufacturer made their money up front, and that was the end of the relationship. That's no longer how TVs are sold. Modern smart TVs are priced with an entirely different purpose in mind. Yes, large display panels are still expensive to produce. They're fragile, energy-intensive to manufacture, difficult to transport, and prone to defects. A single flaw can ruin an entire panel, which keeps baseline costs high. By the time you factor in the display itself, processing hardware, operating systems and codec licensing, global shipping and retail logistics, most of the retail price is already spoken for, which is why, on paper, smart TVs appear to have relatively low markup. But that number is misleading, because today the TV is no longer the product, it's the platform. Modern televisions are designed to stay connected. They track viewing behavior, surface sponsored content, promote paid app placements, and increasingly serve advertisements directly inside menus and home screens. In economic terms, the TV is subsidized hardware. Its job is to enter your home and remain active for years. The real value isn't extracted at checkout, it's extracted over time. Every recommendation, every promoted tile, every suggested app is part of a long-term monetization strategy. So, while smart TVs rank lowest in upfront markup, they represent a fundamental shift in how value is captured. You don't buy a TV anymore, you install one. Number 7. Gaming controllers. For most of gaming history, controllers were disposable tools. They were simple input devices, plastic shells, buttons, and a cable. If one broke, you replaced it cheaply, often with a third-party alternative that worked just as well. Controllers weren't identity products. They were interchangeable. That changed when gaming stopped being about individual games and started becoming about platforms. As consoles evolved into closed ecosystems, controllers quietly shifted roles. They were no longer just tools, they became keys. Modern controllers are designed to be inseparable from the system itself. They're tightly integrated with proprietary firmware, wireless protocols, and console-specific features. Internally, though, very little has changed. Most controllers are still built from injection-molded plastic, rubber membranes, basic circuit boards, inexpensive vibration motors. Manufacturing costs remain modest, even today. So, why do prices keep climbing? Because controllers are no longer sold as products. They're sold as guaranteed replacements. Stick drift isn't a mystery. Battery degradation isn't a surprise. Button fatigue is expected. Controllers are designed to wear out faster than the console they serve. Repair is discouraged. Parts aren't standardized. Third-party alternatives are limited or artificially constrained. This creates a quiet but powerful dynamic. You don't upgrade controllers because you want to. You replace them because the platform requires it. The markup doesn't come from innovation. It comes from inevitability. Controllers aren't premium because they're complex. They're premium because sooner or later, you have no alternative. And that's what makes their economics work. Number 6. Smart speakers. Before smart speakers, interacting with technology was intentional. You opened a device, you typed a query, you made a conscious decision to engage. Technology waited for you. Smart speakers quietly reversed that relationship. They weren't introduced as powerful computers or essential devices. They were marketed as helpers, small, friendly, inexpensive objects meant to disappear into the background of daily life. From a hardware perspective, they are extremely simple. Entry-level processors, low-cost microphones, basic speakers, plastic enclosures. At scale, the manufacturing cost is minimal, and margins on the device itself are thin, sometimes deliberately so. But again, the hardware price is almost irrelevant. The real purpose of the smart speaker is habit formation. It trains users to ask instead of search, speak instead of browse, accept the first answer instead of comparing. This shift matters economically. When you type a search, you see options. When you speak a request, you usually hear one answer. That single response dynamic is what gives smart speakers their power. Over time, these devices become intermediaries. They decide which brands are mentioned, which services are suggested, and which purchases feel default. The markup doesn't show up on your receipt. It shows up in the narrowing of choice. You didn't buy a speaker. You installed a decision filter. Number 5, Bluetooth headphones. Headphones used to be simple tools. They played sound. If they worked, they were good enough. There was very little anxiety in buying them. You plugged them in, and that was the end of the decision. Wireless headphones changed that completely. Today, they're no longer sold as audio devices. They're sold as judgments. From the outside, prices feel justified. Noise cancellation, touch controls, sleek design, compact batteries. But internally, many wireless headphones are far more alike than most people realize. Across price tiers, you'll often find the same Bluetooth chipsets, the same battery chemistry, similar driver technology. What changes dramatically isn't the hardware, it's the story. Branding, influencer placement, premium packaging, and lifestyle marketing inflate perceived value far beyond manufacturing cost. The purpose of the product is no longer just to deliver sound, it's to deliver confidence at the moment of purchase. You're not paying for better audio, you're paying to silence doubt. Doubt that you chose the wrong option, doubt that you cheapened out, doubt that someone else knows something you don't. That's why price differences feel reasonable, even when internals aren't. The markup lives in reassurance, not engineering. And once a product is priced to reduce anxiety instead of reflect cost, markup becomes remarkably easy to justify. If you're noticing a pattern, that prices are shaped less by materials and more by behavioral leverage. That's the core idea behind market logic. If you enjoy seeing everyday products broken down this way, consider subscribing. Now, let's move into the categories where markup becomes far more aggressive. Number 4, smartwatches. Watches were once among the simplest devices people owned. They told time. Later, they signaled status. But their function was clear and limited. Smartwatches quietly redefined that role. They didn't just add features, they added measurement. From a hardware perspective, smartwatches aren't exotic. They're compact computers built from mass-produced components, small OLED or LCD displays, standard health sensors, modest processors, batteries constrained by size, not cost. None of this justifies the premium pricing on its own. The justification comes from what the device does to the user. Smartwatches don't simply report information, they evaluate you. They count steps, they track sleep, they monitor heart rate, they assign meaning to activity through rings, streaks, and daily goals. Over time, the device becomes a mirror. And once a product becomes part of how you judge your own behavior, it stops being optional. Upgrades feel responsible, replacement feels necessary. Skipping an update feels like neglect. The markup doesn't live in sensors or screens, it lives in emotional attachment to personal data. Your history is locked inside the device. Your progress feels fragile without it. Smartwatches aren't priced as gadgets. They're priced as accountability tools. And that makes their markup both durable and invisible. Number 3, streaming devices. Streaming devices look almost too simple to matter. Small plastic boxes, minimal ports, lightweight, inexpensive, and unremarkable. For most people, they feel like neutral tools, just a way to get content onto a screen. But that's not what they actually are. Before streaming devices, televisions were passive. You chose a channel. You controlled the experience. Streaming devices changed that relationship by inserting themselves between you and your content. From a hardware perspective, they're among the cheapest gadgets in your home. Entry-level processors, minimal memory, basic cooling, plastic enclosures. Manufacturing costs are extremely low, even at modest scale, yet their pricing reflects something entirely different. Because the purpose of a streaming device isn't performance, it's positioning. These devices decide which apps are pre-installed, which platforms appear first, which services are recommended. They don't just show content, they shape behavior. Defaults matter. The app that loads fastest gets watched more. The platform placed front and center feels more legitimate. The service that requires fewer clicks becomes habitual. In economic terms, streaming devices monetize attention routing. They don't charge you directly for influence. They bake it into the hardware price and recoup it through partnerships, placement fees, and ecosystem leverage. Once a streaming device becomes your default gateway to entertainment, replacing it feels unnecessary, even inconvenient. The markup reflects control over what you see next, not the cost of the box itself. Number 2, smartphones. Smartphones occupy a position no other consumer product does. They are the most used object people own, the first thing they reach for in the morning, and the last thing they put down at night. That alone changes how pricing works. Phones aren't bought rationally, they're chosen emotionally. They carry photos, conversations, routines, memories, and social presence. They're personal, in a way almost nothing else is. Phone companies understand this perfectly. That's why phones aren't marketed as tools, they're marketed as extensions of self. Lifestyle imagery replaces specifications. Campaigns focus on identity, creativity, belonging, and status. Pricing follows emotion, not cost. Upgrade cycles are framed as self-expression. New models are positioned as personal improvements. Holding onto an older phone is subtly framed as falling behind. Payment plans do the rest. By breaking the price into monthly fragments, the emotional decision is disconnected from financial impact. You're not buying a phone, you're continuing a relationship. The purpose of the smartphone market isn't to sell devices, it's to sustain attachment. Once a product becomes emotionally irreplaceable, markup stops being evaluated. It's felt. And that's what makes smartphones one of the most profitable consumer products ever created. Number 1, printer ink and toner. Printer ink is one of the most extreme markup categories in modern consumer products. And unlike many others on this list, it isn't subtle. From a manufacturing standpoint, ink is cheap. The raw materials cost very little. Production is highly automated. Distribution is lightweight. Yet ink cartridges are priced like luxury goods. That contradiction is the point. Printers are rarely sold to make money. They're sold to place a device in your home or office that requires continuous controlled replenishment. In economic terms, printers are loss leaders. The real business begins the moment the first cartridge runs low. Ink systems are deliberately closed. Cartridges are chipped. Refills are blocked or flagged. Low ink warnings appear long before ink is actually gone. The goal isn't accuracy, it's compliance. Once you own the printer, your options collapse. Third-party alternatives are discouraged through warnings, software blocks, or degraded performance. Subscriptions are framed as convenience. Running out is framed as failure. The printer doesn't stop working because it's broken. It stops working because the business model demands it. Ink isn't priced based on what it costs to make. It's priced based on how difficult it is for you to refuse. And that's what makes printer ink the highest markup product on this list. Not because it's sophisticated, but because it's unavoidable. None of these products are scams. They're simply priced according to psychology, not cost. Once you understand where markup really comes from, habit, emotion, dependency, and control, you stop seeing gadgets as technology and start seeing them as economic systems. If you want more breakdowns like this, where everyday products are explained through logic instead of hype, subscribe to Market Logic. Because once you see how pricing actually works, you don't just shop differently, you think differently.